Shana Tova. Tradition and freedom are partners in a living Judaism. There have been many Jewish traditions. Jewish piety coexists with Jewish skepticism. Jewish sorrow competes with Jewish humor. Yiddish and Hebrew, Ashkenazim and Sephardim, ancient, medieval, and modern, Jewish life has always changed, branched out, diversified, and grown. What one generation thought would be Judaism from generation to generation, the next generation could change into something very different. Tradition has many faces. Tradition is a burden, weighing us down with rules, rituals, and restrictions. Tradition is a challenge, provoking declarations of independence. Tradition is also a reservoir, providing emotional connection and depth. Tradition can strengthen freedom. When we choose from knowledge, we are free. When we choose the traditions we celebrate, we are free. The lived experience of Yom Kippur celebrates this reality. Some fast, others do not. Some observe together, others mark that day alone. Just as each family and each other family connects to Jewish tradition in their own manner, so too does Jewish tradition mirror Jewish diversity. Kamayim hapanim lapanim, kin lev ha'adam la'adam. Face to face, each person reflects the heart of the other.
In ancient days in Israel, heralds lighted flares on the mountaintops and hills. In later days, messengers took word from town to town that multitudes might learn of new moon's coming. Blow the shofar made of horn of ram. Remember Abraham. Give thanks for time and season and the blessings of the earth. A festive month was Tishrei, of ingathering and renewal. So the year began on New Moon's Day, the day of world's creation. And all of Israel blew the horn with revelry and joy and gathered ripened fruits and sweetened bread with honey, danced to the music of the timbrel, scattering evil days to all the winds.
In later years, there came a time when he who stood in Sinai called the first of Tishri holy, set the day apart for hallowing, remembering, and giving thanks. Still later came the rabbis and affirmed, the year begins for Israelites in Tishri, hallow it with Moses as a day of awe, for judgment, for repentance, for redemption's horn. And they established prayers, and every year they gathered on the day, and Israel prayed.
Remember then our fathers' and our mothers' ways, and set aside the day to meditate, for quiet thoughts, for reading in the book of books, reflection on the year just past, the good, the evil we have wrought, that where we failed in loving, we may find the light, and in the new year learn anew to love and live in brotherhood and peace. Blow a long blast, a clarion call, that all humanity be redeemed as the Hebrew prophets dreamed.
We live in an uncertain world. Our ancestors feared an unknown future, controlling little of their fate. They looked beyond this world, imagining that if they did not know what would happen, at least something did. Their high holidays were days of judgment. On Rosh Hashanah will be inscribed, and on Yom Kippur will be sealed. How many will pass from the earth, and how many will be created? Who will live and who will die? Who by water and who by fire? And they prayed that repentance, prayer, and charity could avert the decree. We live with not knowing. If we are to be saved, we humans must do the saving. If we are to live, we must do the living. No one knows what the new year holds. If there is to be a better life, it is we who must address who will rest and who will wander, who will live in harmony and who will be harried, who will enjoy tranquility and who will suffer, who will be degraded and who will be exalted. We live in the unknown, yet an unknown future is also our freedom. Who by fire? And who by fire? Who by water? Who in the sunshine? Who in the nighttime? Who by high ordeal? Who by common trial? Who in the merry month of May? Who by very slow decay? And who shall I say is calling? And who in her lonely slip? Who by barbiturate? Who in these realms of love? Who by something blunt? And who by avalanche? Who by powder? Who for his greed? Who for his hunger? And who shall I say is calling? And who by brave ascent? Who by accident? Who in solitude? Who in this mirror? Who by his lady's command? Who by his own hand? Who in mortal chains, who in power, and who shall I say is calling?
In a tradition that views Torah as sacred and values the study of Torah beyond all else, we consider with utmost care what is Torah and what it means to honor it.
The rabbis said, turn it, for all is contained in it. We turn and we turn, but not all is in it. We find that we have more to add. We cannot read all of our truths into a place where they've never been, so we invent and inscribe, and we ask, can new texts too become sacred? Can our own voices become Torah?
And throughout the process, we ask what it means to us to keep on wrestling with tradition. How do we know when we have wrestled enough? And how do we know when it is time to let go, time to free ourselves for something new?
We ask these questions here today in the context of our service because questioning in pursuit of our deepest truths is itself a form of Torah. We ask our questions fully realizing that well-meaning people among us may differ, perhaps vehemently, in their answers. It's not our purpose to be divisive, but we are already of many minds. Silencing the concerns will not diminish them. It will not make them go away.
Dare we ask these questions? Dare we not ask them? If not now, when?
Please rise as we learn from the wisdom of our people. Thank you. Please be seated. At the beginning of our service, we read a line from Proverbs chapter 27. Kamayim hapanim lapanim ken lev ha'adam la'adam. As in water, one face answers to another, so too does the heart of one person to another. This saying contains wisdom. Just as the face we make into the water will be reflected back to us, so too does our approach to other people come back to us. An angry scowl may receive one back. A smile often meets another smile. This works particularly well with the Hebrew word mayim, spelled mem, yud, mem, a palindrome that reads the same forwards or reflected backwards. There are many ways that Jewish tradition conveys wisdom about the human experience. Famous sayings, rabbinic laws, popular customs all have their share of wisdom and foolishness, as we all do. Jewish folklore is another reservoir of Jewish experience, and much of it would have been lost in the 20th century if not for the pioneering work of Dov Noy, the founder of the Israel Folklore Archive in 1955. Noy talked to Jewish immigrants from Turkey, Eastern Europe, North Africa, Yemen, Central Asia, the far-flung Jewish diaspora communities whose dispersion was ending. He realized that if he did not record the folklore, the tales of the people that the rabbis and scholars largely ignored, they would be lost year by year. Today, there are over 24,000 stories from 70 different subgroups organized and categorized and compared to other folklore all over the world, adding this body of human knowledge to the body of human knowledge. The central motif of the story I will read, entitled As Face Answers to Face in Water, it appears in many cultures. You may recognize other stories that reflect this story, but consider its lesson as we leave Yom Kippur and as we enter the rest of the Jewish year 5784. What face shall we show to those we meet? All her life, she had heard a story about hotels. What a lovely and elegant place they are, where you do nothing but rest, just rest and sleep. It was another place she didn't know, because she was a woman who had to work all the time. Then she decided that for a year she would save a shekel every day so she would have enough money to go to a hotel. She saved a shekel every day and another shekel and another shekel. At the end of the year, she had 365 shekels. She packed her suitcase and went to the hotel. She went up to the clerk at the reception desk. "I've got money and I want to spend a whole night in the hotel," she told him. "And if I don't have enough money, it's all right with me if you put another woman in my room, so long as she's a nice lady." "All right," the clerk told her and counted the money. It turned out that she had exactly enough for a room in the hotel, a room for one night, and for breakfast. She did not have to share with another woman. So he called the bellboy. He took the old woman and her suitcase. They take the woman's suitcase to her room, and she goes into the room. The bellboy tells her, "This is your room. Have a good time." She goes into the room, looks around, takes a deep breath. Wall-to-wall carpets, a large bed, lamps. Suddenly, she sees a woman standing opposite her with an angry look on her face. "Lady, what are you doing here?" this woman asks the other woman. She sees the woman mimicking her. "Lady," she tells her, "you behave yourself." She sees that the woman mimics her again. "Lady, why aren't you being nice?" she says. And again, the woman mimics her. The old woman is irritated. She leaves the room and goes down to the reception desk. "You said you would give me a single room," she tells the clerk. "If I don't have enough money for a single room, I wouldn't mind another woman there, but at least she should be a nice woman. I went up to my room and I saw a woman who really isn't nice at all. She keeps mimicking everything I do and behaving rudely." The desk clerk was smart enough to realize that she was seeing herself in the mirror, and that this woman had evidently never seen herself in a mirror before. She did not know that she was looking at herself. So the desk clerk said to her, "When you go back upstairs and see the other woman, try smiling at her, and she'll smile back at you. Treat her nicely, and you'll see that she'll be nice to you in return, and everything will be all right." "Fine," said the woman. She went back to her room and saw the woman again. She smiled at the woman, and the woman smiled back at her. She invited the woman to sit down, and the woman invited her too. In this way, she spent a very pleasant evening in the hotel. The next day, when she went downstairs, she told the desk clerk, "Thank you very much indeed. I had a wonderful and successful evening. It was everything I imagined about a hotel." Can I ask you to please rise as we return our Torah scroll to the Ark?
Is such a fast I have chosen? A day for people to afflict their souls? Is it to bow down their heads like bulrushes and spread sackcloth and ashes beneath them? Is such what you call a fast? Is not this fast I have chosen to loosen the chains of evil and untie the bonds of every yoke, to let the oppressed go free? Is it not to share your bread with the hungry and bring the outcast poor to your house? When you see them naked, that you cover them and not ignore your fellows. Then your light will burst out like the dawn, and your health will spring forth. Then your righteousness will go before you. If you remove the chains of oppression, the menacing hand, the words of malice, and if you offer compassion to the needy and relief to the affected soul, then your light will shine in darkness, and your night will become bright as day.
I look upon Judaism as the essence of an attitude to life which is incarnate in the Jewish people, rather than the essence of the law laid down in the Torah and interpreted in the Talmud. The essence of that conception seems to me to lie in an affirmative attitude to the life of all creation. Life is sacred. That is to say, it is the supreme value to which all other values are subordinate. But the Jewish tradition also contains something else, something which finds splendid expression in many of the Psalms, namely, a sort of intoxicated joy and amazement with the beauty and grandeur of this world, of which we can form only a faint notion.
Man in Space, 1961. Behold what comes forth out of mud to cast his moving shadow across a web of stars. A question mark from the darkest pit of time that spirals from amoeba toward the moon. In fear and trembling at first, but now more boldly he crawls from the ooze of his puddles and rises to soar, girdles the globe in 90 weightless minutes, surveying his tomb while planets await his call.
Confounder of reason, compounded of paradox. In love of his fellows, he burns himself for fuel. In fear of his fellows, he forges his end-earth weapon. Himself, the arrow in flight, the target in place. A thinking atom, the riddle in the rocket, composed of elements old as the oldest star.
That life is both fleeting and uncertain is a truth that presses upon the mind with special force as the old year ends and the new begins. Time speeds on and we go on with it. And though we have seen the year close, we can never be sure of seeing the end of the new. Since life is so fleeting and frail, we must begin the serious use of it at once and begin it by entering upon the task of self-examination and self-ennoblement, which is its essential preliminary. A new year, says the rabbis, should inaugurate a new life.
If one says, I will sin and repent, I will sin and repent, he will not be given an opportunity to repent. I will sin, and the Day of Atonement will atone. Then the Day of Atonement does not atone. For transgressions between people, the Day of Atonement does not atone until one appeases one's fellow.
death and life. Aunt Alice, before she died, told her sister Virginia which sweaters would fit her, told Dorothy about her good dresses, wrote the obituary she wanted in the Ogden paper, made a list of who should be notified, and said to her sisters that as the oldest, it was fitting that she go first. Here, too, and all her instructions were typed in marked envelopes to make it easy for everybody. So that was all was left was to cry. Grateful I am as I awake each morning, drawing upward sleep, breaking about my head as I fill my lungs with wakefulness. Grateful I am alive. Why this so puzzles me, being in sound health and years away from the numbers of my death? Am I morbid of living? Some Freud's substitution? Is this the wages of secular sin obsessed? But I am silent and left only with gratitude, gifted now to each moment and especially each flower.
Now, after many years of living, I begin to see that I rebelled only a little, and I do observe all the laws and the commandments. I observe the law of gravity, which is the law of the earth's attraction, with all my body and with all my might and with all my love. I observe the law of equilibrium and the law of the conservation of matter, my body versus my body, my soul versus my soul, my body versus my soul. I abhor a vacuum in my pain and in my joy. I follow the law of water seeking its own level. Past and future are cycled back to me. I rise and I raise with the law of the lever. I begin to understand, as I would with an old car, what makes it work. The action of pistons and brakes, reward and punishment, be fruitful and multiply, forget and remember, bolts and springs, fast and slow, and the laws of history. Thus spake the years of my life unto the days of my life. Thus spake my soul unto the parts of my body. This is a sermon in the synagogue. This is a eulogy for the dead. This is burial, and this is resurrection. Thus spake the man.
We know that death is woven into the design of our existence, that nature has not given us the qualities of mountain and stone. We know that we feel, we think, we love, we hate. And for this fragile beauty, we pay the price of impermanence, decline and death, imperious death, everywhere grinning at our pomp and plans. It is we who mourn, who grieve. It is we alone of all the manifold forms of life who know that we must die. That is our greatness, our majesty, our dignity. We know that we must die. It is we who search for the reasons, who look for meanings in death and life. That is what carries us beyond death.
If you're comfortable doing so, could you please stand for just a moment? We do not know what losses the Jewish year just begun will bring us when we come together again for Rosh Hashanah in the next year. We do not know. There is no canonical book of life recording what will happen. And so that is why we must take the opportunity to reach out to those whom we love, to express our feelings for them, to make the most of the time that we do have together. As we remember our loved ones of the past, so too do we love those still living and make them an intimate part of our lives. I invite us to pause for a moment of silent reflection in memory and in love. In Jewish life, we say, Zecher Tzadikim Livracha. The memory of good people is a blessing to us. Please be seated as these words are sung. Dating is bad practice for marriage. Most of the time, when you start dating, you put on your best face. You act how you think will be attractive to the other. You plan witty conversation. Dating is hard work. You may avoid arguing because any disagreement could be the end. And you might avoid conflict because you'd rather stay in a so-so dating relationship than be alone. When I meet couples getting married, I hear again and again that their first dates were surprisingly easy. The conversation just flowed. They felt amazingly comfortable. It was like they were in a relationship rhythm right away. It was a natural fit. Each of them was their honest selves. They let their guard down and their quirks show, and the other person still wanted more. No relationship is entirely smooth. As an old Yiddish saying has it, the smoothest way is full of stones. As engagement becomes wedding, wedding becomes marriage, marriage becomes family, and individuals continue to grow in their own ways, there will be new challenges, new complications. That partnership that grew to love and then to marriage was the beginning of a real relationship. And real relationships start with truly seeing and meeting each other. Real relationships can be complicated. In fact, real relationships should be complicated because people are complicated. Today, it seems like the world is on fire. Compared to huge issues like our relationship to the Jewish past and Jewish tradition, or the battle between thinking for ourselves and groupthink, or the split between American Jews and Israel, getting along better with each other seems like small potatoes. Why am I not talking about the global democracy disaster, or climate change, or the ongoing refugee crisis? There's enough in the big picture to give anyone an anxiety attack. Here is why the small picture is important. If you are in a mental health moment, the first thing they say to do is to make sure the basics of self-care are covered before opening the big issues. Are you eating regularly? Are you sleeping? Are you taking your medication? Are you exercising? Are you staying clean? Because if you are not eating or on your meds or sleeping, how can you fix anything else? The basic building block of community and family, even a sense of ourself, is relating to other people. So we need to make sure that is working before turning to any step two. Some social media platforms let you indicate your relationship status. Single, married, divorced. It's complicated. That last one has been the theme of our high holiday explorations of the human and the Jewish condition. If we are honest, any of the other answers should also be labeled, it's complicated. You can be married, and it's complicated. Single, and it's complicated. No one disputes that being divorced is complicated. Our relationships should be in-depth, multi-layered, rich, and challenging. Of course, not every acquaintance needs to be a deep, complicated relationship. You can just smile and nod or chit-chat with your regular waiter, your supermarket checkout clerk, your bus driver. Some people have many close friends, others just a few. Each one of those deeper relationships means more of ourselves revealed, more emotional capital invested, greater risk, but also greater reward. As investment advisors always say, past results are no guarantee of future returns. But nothing ventured, nothing gained either. Other people can be really difficult. My work as a rabbi would be much easier if it were not for all the people. Of course, without the people, there would be no work. I love that I get to work with people of all ages, from baby namings to funerals and everything in between. I love that other people welcome me into the most intimate and challenging moments. I love that I get to witness the family dynamics and the special connections behind the scenes, up close and personal. Working with families through these stressful moments can be complicated because people are complicated. They have emotions. They get offended and upset. They hold grudges. They like some people and they do not like other people. They do not always share or play well with others or clean up after themselves. They want attention, and they pout if they do not get it. And they want what they want when they want it. And children can be even more challenging. I sometimes remind couples getting married that the original symbolism of the chuppah, the wedding canopy, was not the spreading of angels' wings, nor a representation of the home they were building together. Because Jewish weddings were traditionally held outside, the chuppah represented the chance of rain. In other words, every day together will not be your wedding day, full of joy and excitement and special moments. There will always be more dishes to wash. There is always more laundry. There will be miscommunications and disagreements, moments when one of you wants to be alone and the other one wants quality time, priority conflicts and differing parenting styles that need negotiating. Just as Jewish culture is a response to the human experience, so too are all cultures in the world. I was once celebrating a wedding between a Jewish partner and an Irish partner, and I learned, because they wanted this in their ceremony, the tradition of a wedding bell, a Celtic tradition that you ring a bell during your wedding ceremony, and then that bell lives on the mantle of your home, so that at any point in the future, if there is a disagreement, if you're feeling a disconnection, either partner can go to the mantle to ring that bell and remind you of that moment in your life when you truly loved and were living for each other. It's a timeout. It's a break. But it's also accepting that relationships are naturally complicated, and it's trying to deal with it in a productive and a positive way. Other people can be difficult because their brains work differently than ours. Sometimes that can be very helpful. They can pack a suitcase or load a car trunk way better than we can. They can do math in their head amazingly fast. They remember names and faces and relationships that we forget. It can be annoying when the other person finds in 15 seconds what you have been looking for 15 minutes, but it's definitely helpful. It's more than just having another set of hands and eyes to work together. It's having a different set of hands and eyes and thoughts to complement our own. That difference can also create problems. Other people's brains just work differently than ours, and it's impossible to see the world exactly how they see it, with their experiences and their perspectives and their emotional responses. Sometimes we have to hammer out together what reality actually is between our different perspectives before we decide what we want to do about it. If we try to solve the problem first, we won't even agree what the problem is. There is no one type of personality, just as there is no one correct thermostat setting that is right for everyone. In this room, at least one person is too hot, at least one person is too cold, and at least one person is just fine. The realization that people are different is not a modern insight. One of the earliest collections of rabbinic teachings, Pirkei Avot, has a kind of personality test describing 4 types of people in different aspects. As I read a few of these, consider which one are you, and which one is the other person to whom you are closest. Question 1, character. There are 4 types of character in people. 1 says, what's mine is mine, and what's yours is yours. This is ordinary. 1 says, what's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine. This is foolish. 1 says, what is mine is yours, and what is yours is yours. This is the saint. And 1 says, what is mine, and what is yours is mine. This is the wicked. Ignore for a moment the moral judgment of wicked or saint. Which one is your impulse, and which one is theirs? Mine is mine, and yours is yours? Or mine is yours, and yours is yours? Or mine is mine, and yours is mine? There is a time for each of these, a time to be generous, and a time to stand up for ourselves and what we need. Our impulse might not be what we ultimately do or say, but our impulse might be what we blurt out before we think, or what we assume any normal person would say or do, whatever normal is. Understanding our tendencies is an important step to becoming the person we want to be from the person we currently are. Question 2, temperament. There are 4 kinds of temperaments. One who is easy to anger and easy to pacify gains what is lost. One who is hard to anger and hard to appease loses what is gained. One who is hard to anger and easy to pacify is a saint. And one who is easy to anger and hard to appease is wicked. I know people like each of those 4. Which are you? Which are the people close to you? Get mad fast, but also calm down fast? Get mad slowly, but then be calm slowly once you are mad? Get mad slowly and calm down quickly? Or get mad fast and take a long time to calm down? Certain combinations of these temperaments could work well together. Other combinations would be a disaster. Question 3, learning. There are 4 types of students: quick to understand and quick to forget, slow to understand and slow to forget, quick to understand and slow to forget, slow to understand and quick to forget. Imagine a teacher who is one of these and students who are different from the teacher's learning character. How would someone who is quick to understand and slow to forget handle a student who is slow to understand and quick to forget? Imagine being paired for a group project in school or at work with a different character, or marrying one. Possible? Sure. Complicated. Personality is not destiny. People can gain skills and work on their patience, or learn to be more generous, or to advocate for themselves. We can collaborate with and we can love people whose personalities are different from ours. The benefits of our differences working together are worth the challenges of our differences clashing with each other. Think of an orchestra playing. They play different notes on different instruments that make different sounds. When they clash, it sounds terrible. When they all play in unison, as when they tune up at the beginning, the sound is both beautiful and strange, and it does not last as they shift to harmonies to finish their tuning. The orchestra at its best is harmony, not unison. When we choose music for our celebrations, we find a balance between singing all together as one community and our choir creating beautiful harmony out of many notes at once. It's certainly more complicated than singing everything in unison. At this moment, I'm definitely preaching to the choir. Harmony is certainly more beautiful than everyone singing whatever notes they want as loudly as they want, whenever they want. We find life partners, friends, a community. We join them and we celebrate good times, and then something goes wrong. a misunderstanding, a differing perception, a moment of anger, a willful slight. Maybe we let it go, maybe we do not. Maybe we forgive even if we do not forget. If the relationship is worth it, proper repair on both sides allow a wound to become a scar. And we add this moment as one more complication to a complicated connection. The Jewish cultural genius of Yom Kippur requires human forgiveness from the person you have wronged before looking anywhere else, be it above and beyond or inside your own heart. That is what we need to do when complicated but important relationships go wrong. How do we make them go right? The Jewish philosopher Martin Buber described two kinds of relationships: I-it and I-thou. An I-it relationship treats the other person as a means to an end, as a thing, as an object to be looked at and then ignored once they have served our purpose. An I-thou relationship is different. We address the other person as an active presence, as a full being in their own right, another personality we can connect with on a deep emotional, psychological, some might say spiritual level. Here is how Buber described it. If I face a human being as my thou, he is not a thing among things and does not consist of things. This human being is not he or she, bounded from every other he and she, a specific point in space and time within the net of the world, nor is he a nature able to be experienced and described, a loose bundle of named qualities. But with no neighbor and whole in himself, he is thou and fills the heavens. This does not mean that nothing else exists except himself, but all else lives in his light. This is the difference between listening at another person and truly listening to another person. The difference between glancing at someone and really seeing them. It can be as simple as thanking the busboy clearing dishes and filling your water, or as profound as looking into the eyes of your beloved and seeing them as they truly are. In this room, there are over 100 potential thous. They even have name tags. We do not truly know each other in the more profound way Buber describes. Imagine this. What if you came to high holiday services and the chairs were arranged in pairs, each chair facing another? What if you experienced these peak moments of the congregational year not facing me or the choir, but facing the person or the people you came with? Or facing someone new whom you have never met, but whom you will know by the time you leave? What if Yom Kippur was focused on talking to each other instead of listening to me? We talk to therapists and counselors, friends and family. We can also talk to the people next to us. Guiding questions, interpreting a Jewish text, simply looking at each other's faces. There's a reason why the Jewish tradition of studying in chevruta, or partnership with another person, has become a treasured pedagogy among all kinds of Jews. What we see is different from what they see. And if we can glimpse the world through their eyes, our horizon of possibilities becomes that much wider. If that image of sitting in pairs facing each other for 80 minutes was not disturbing enough for the introverts, here is one step further. What if you came into high holiday services and the chairs were arranged in 3 or 4 large circles? You would be forced to face people you did not know. You would be eye to eye with 30 or 40 people at once. Any act of speech would be public. Would that create community? Would you say, nope, and head for the door? A large circle would take even more trust than face-to-face for us to uncross our arms and legs, to speak honestly, to connect deeply with that many people. There's a reason that the Jewish innovation of the chavurah, or intimate friendship of limited numbers, has been popular in the last 50 years of Jewish communal creativity. It takes more than 80 minutes to build trust and community. It does not have to take a full lifetime either. The alchemy of friendship and community is complicated. and we have done it again and again in our lives. Relating to other people is challenging, but so too is it challenging for American Jews to relate to Israel, for free thinkers to risk groupthink as they create community, for non-traditional humanistic Jews to celebrate Jewish traditions on Rosh Hashanah and on Yom Kippur. If we know who we are, we can meet the other side where they are. What we start with one person can be the first step to wider influence. One of the anthems of our movement is a simple song written over 40 years ago by Rabbi Sherwin Wine. It begins with the self and then goes beyond, because knowing ourselves is but the first step to connecting with each other. Where is my light? My light is in me. Where is my hope? In me. My strength? In me. Vegam bach, and in you. We draw light and hope and strength from each other. Genesis put it even more simply. Lo tov heyot adam levado. It is not good for humanity to be alone. That is why we are listening, thinking, being present with our full selves today. Whether we are in this room or anywhere in the world, we are with each other. I and thou, that is the start. Shana Tova, wishing you a happy and healthy new year of connection. Once again, I wish you a Shana Tova. Please turn to those next to you in an I-thou way and say, Happy New Year.